This is where Lincoln was lived for 5 years when he was a kid, and this is where his earliest memories are. So we're gonna go take a look. Okay, so this is the Abraham Lincoln Boyhood home. We were at his birthplace a little bit ago, and now we have moved down the road. His dad lost the title to his birthplace property, and when that happened, they moved here, which is about 6 or 7 miles down the road. That over there is a replica of his home. We'll take a look at that in a little bit here, but this is Knob Creek is the name of this property. This is a visitor center. It's closed right now. But back here, the ranger tells me, is what the property would have looked like back when Lincoln was here. The fencing and the bales of hay and the fields is what it would have looked like when Lincoln was here. Take a walk back here. So this has been purposely left, the ranger said, been purposely left to look as it would have looked when Lincoln lived here. He lived here from, I guess it would have been, let's see, 1811 through 1816, at which point in 1816 he moved to Indiana, which is where his mother passed away before he then moved on to Illinois. There you go. Moved to Knob Creek after a title dispute forced them to leave Sinking Spring. They did not own this property, they rented it. But this was a working farm. That's what Abraham Lincoln's dad wanted to do. And this is as the property would have appeared back then. Back then, this was still relatively untamed country. And they were subject to some Indian attacks, and they were subject to some frontier type issues. This is where Lincoln's earliest memories are. He did not have any memories of living at Sinking Spring, which is where the Boyhood Memorial is, where the big column building was. But this is where his earliest memories were of farming this land and having a farm on this land. So yeah, this is what Lincoln would have remembered as from his boyhood. The Rangers have told us that Abraham Lincoln had a younger brother. He had an older sister who died in childbirth when she was 21. Lincoln, I believe, was living in Springfield when she died. But he also had a younger brother who lived only a few days. And they know where his younger brother was buried. His younger brother died when the Lincoln family was living in this property. But they know where the grave is of his younger brother, his infant brother. But the grave is on private property back over that way somewhere. And the property owner is not interested in giving the public access to where Lincoln's younger brother is buried. I've been told, the Rangers tell us that the grave was marked. It's been marked, but it's not open to the public. The public is not allowed to go look at the grave. So we will not be visiting the grave of Abraham Lincoln's younger brother today. To assume that the sidewalk and the crapper was not here when Abraham Lincoln lived here. I thought this building was a visitor center that just wasn't open, but it turns out it is a tavern. It is an actual building that was in the area, and he opened this tavern in the early 1900s, and then they opened, this lady and her husband bought the Knob Creek farm, and they opened this tavern in 1933. And they built the tavern in the style of the area in Lincoln's time. And they owned this property, and they served food and drinks, I guess, at this tavern. And then sold the land eventually to the federal government, National Park Service, and it is now run by the National Park Service. And over there is a ranger.
Friend with one of his child, Arson Gallagher, actually lived in, and it was on the property, and they just moved it up here.
Okay, so it was like a neighbor's cabin.
Yes.
Okay, but it's from the period.
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Were they a lot shorter then? Is that why that door is so much shorter?
Apparently.
Oh, that was the other question I had about the cabin. The cabin doesn't have like an upstairs. A lot of cabins tend to have upstairs.
I guess it just depends what when they built the cabins, and then she might know more out here about that.
So this is not a replica cabin. I thought this was a replica cabin. It's not Lincoln's cabin, but it was built during the time that Lincoln was here. It was built by some neighbors of theirs, and moved here. So this is an actual cabin that was in use at the time that Lincoln was living here when he was a boy. So this is a very old building. Very well built. You see a couple of chinks up there where rain can get in. But for the most part, I bet this would be not an uncomfortable place to live today. Well, it'd be uncomfortable for me because there's no air conditioning, but I mean, it's a livable building. Looks like there's a loft up there, but that would be where people slept, right above the fireplace. It's probably the warmest spot in the house. And you've got your window shade. There is a loft.
Yeah, but oftentimes the loft is.
Oh, I bet that's where they slept though, because it's right above the.
During the winter, definitely. But most of the time, they would.
I'm gonna have to be careful I don't smack my head.
Yeah.
Pioneers were short. And then this is
Frontier.
Being on the frontier made you short?
Well, they were pioneers.
Corn. Bloody Butcher. Ooh, what's Bloody Butcher? Connecticut field pumpkins. Alright, so crops. Indian corn. Ooh, you know what? That looks like a groundhog hole or something. Something's living in there. Let's see what this is over here. Also assuming that the electric wires were not here when Lincoln was living here. Let's see what this sign says. Down by Knob Creek. Oh, wonder how far down it is. Alright, so this is talking about Knob Creek. Oh, and they told this story at the birthplace memorial about him falling in the water when he was a kid, and one of his neighbor kids rescued him with a tree branch. Sure how far down this trail I would have to go to actually see the actual Knob Creek. Give it a walk and see. Not very long at all. It was about a 30-second walk, and I'm assuming that this here is Knob Creek. Yeah, I'm not overly impressed. Knob Creek.
Well, it's not much of a creek today.
No, there's a picture on the sign up there that had it overflowing its banks and flooding everything out.
He supposedly fell in and it was swirling.
Yeah, I don't see.
And it was supposedly this location.
I don't. Is that what the stick is for? Is this the stick that is his?
That's the stick that they used.
His buddy rescued him with.
It's been there since. Yes.
Yeah, somebody broke it, bastards. I'm less than impressed with Knob Creek, and I find it very difficult to believe that it looked like this when Lincoln almost drowned in it. So I'm going to go on a limb and say it's kind of dry today.
It was probably early in the spring when it happened.